to the Paradigm Shift, episode 187. Oh, it says 180 up there. Happy Saturday. Hope everyone's having an unbelievable start to the weekend. I see Big Dave. Thank you for your patience. We're going to get you on right now. Let's get this party started. Let's go deep. Let's have some fun. We have not one, but two extraordinary guests on, and I couldn't be more excited to bring them on. Let's get this. Hey, Dave.
Hey, buddy. What's going on?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Doing good. Although my hairpiece isn't doing so good.
I put on a hat. So I went to Lenny Kravitz last night and got this cool hat.
Lenny Kravitz is a cool cat.
Yeah, man. He's 60. He's a cool cat.
How was the show?
Amazing. We saw at the Dolby Theater in Vegas and seeing the Eagles at the Sphere tonight, celebrating Roy Kataya's, the CEO of Verb's birthday. And he's amazing. So we're blessed. We got back from Dubai, got to see Miles' football game. I'm blessed, man. He got brought up to varsity as a freshman, just stand on the sidelines, look cool. And then we came to Vegas.
So he's on varsity, so he might not play as much?
He won't play at all, but they symbolically bring up 4 or 5 freshmen at the end of the season for the playoffs and kind of let them do and experience, warming up and eating dinner with the team. But he's super excited.
Very cool. You don't have to get ready. If you stay ready.
Exactly. And preparedness is options, opportunities, and touches of favor packaged in to practice.
I love it. And I love you.
I love you too, man.
We have 2 awesome guests on, but as usual, before we bring them on, we'll go deep and we'll hop right in. For you, Dave, how do you navigate inevitable fear and doubt?
I don't. I think so many billions of dollars are wasted on diets and on doubt. And what do I mean by that? There's billions of dollars spent on a variety of ways that you can be in shape and healthy, but you got to be consistent and practice it. There's billions of dollars spent on doubt, but doubt is infinite in its nature. What we should be focusing in on is our reaction to doubt, our reaction to fear. Because you can have past life trauma, womb trauma, infant trauma, tween trauma, teen trauma, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s trauma. But you won't know why you're doubting things or why you have doubt. But what you will know, what is instant and obvious, is your reaction to doubt. Do you have a need to be offended, right, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful? Those are interfering with your higher self. And when we can identify what we're doing to react to fear and spend minutes and moments in that and allow ourselves to live as a divine detour with that doubt and allow us to have divine direction in divine time, now we can utilize our higher self in order to effectuate the progress towards where we want to be or better, using wisdom and faith to shorten that distance of resistance that's created by the reaction to doubt.
I love it. So you're able to have the awareness to understand what might be intuition and setting you on a more divine path.
Yeah, we want to utilize the omniscient and all-powerful source, the connected infinite loop, the unified system of thought that we belong to in order to effectuate a trajectory of progress towards what we want or better, not what other people want, what's missing, what we don't have, but what we want. And so many people are so focused in on the past and understanding, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of it? Instead of, how am I reacting to this fear, and shortening the distance of the reaction that actually is creating the resistance. And wisdom and faith are the 2 mechanisms which effectuates the shortening the distance of resistance in our life from that unified, abundant, infinite system that we belong to.
You're so connected. One of the many things I admire about you. How do you continue to ascend to new levels of your own awareness?
Practice. I'm extremely disciplined. I have a defined purpose known as intention. So I'm always aligning in a consistent, persistent manner what I do, say, think, feel, and believe, utilizing the 5 different levels of defined purpose or intention in order to effectuate greater progress through greater practice, which is where we started the conversation, is the preparedness that's necessary and understanding the difference between committed, consistent behavior and variant behavior, knowing that 2 minutes a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday when it comes to productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. And so I'm very cognizant of activity within the context of man-made constructive days of the circumstances of the day, but being able to reconcile that into the infinite is a lifelong journey by utilizing time in its consistent and non-consistent way to effectuate the prioritization of my life.
You like to play around with time.
Always, yeah. I mean, I think too many people don't understand how important the common denominator of the human experience is. And the common denominator, the only common denominator of the human experience is time. And man-made constructive time is difficult to reconcile with infinite time because they're 2 entirely different perspectives, energies, and they actually exist in different spaces. And so people have a very difficult time with the activities that they're utilizing in the circumstances of the day, the human experience. How do I fit it in to this infinite world, this infinite universe that I live in?
I love it. I want to take a question from the audience today while we're waiting for our first guest to hop on. Somebody asked you, Dave, what's your best tip for managing time and energy?
Student of the calendar, for sure. So pay attention and give intention to your activities of the day by utilizing a calendar to put it within the context of the circumstances of the day, allowing you greater awareness to the lessons of the past so that you can align the meaning of the future with the lessons of the past, which then expands your imagination, which expands your self-image, notating that you never will overachieve your own self-image. And so the relationship between the present, which exists in the past, present, and future, is one. And so how do we put that or reconcile that together in reality? It's understanding the activities, the intention of the day, and the calendar has to be the best information in order to effectuate the progress that you're looking for. So I study time. I know the math of time, what I pay attention to in time, what I give intention to, doing, saying, thinking, feeling, believing, equal the coincidences of time, the consequences, results, or outcomes, or better that I'm looking for.
I love this so much. I'm actually selfishly a little happy that our guest is running late so we can dive deep on this. You mentioned self-image there. I think that a lot of people struggle with this, with settling or creating a self-image that's less than what they're capable of. How have you been able to continuously build your self-image?
Well, one, know that we're always limiting ourselves because we live within the infinite. So no matter where we are, we're creating a thermostat, a limitation to what we do because it's unlimited. It's infinite in the realm of infinite time. So we have to realize, though, that there's certain limitations that exist within the 24 hours of the day. That's what frustrates people. That's how people get overwhelmed. That's why they procrastinate. And so if we can prioritize what's important to us, then we can live in abundance by waking up every morning and saying, you know what? I'm so blessed because I have so many options, opportunities, and touches of favor in an infinite world that I can't, in any realm, get everything that I want done or be where I want to be or better today because there's always more. And so therefore, I'm going to feel blessed and just prioritize my day in that blessing of knowing I can't get everything done and knowing that prioritization is the antidote to feeling overwhelmed, to being and procrastinating. Because if you prioritize, you'll know what to do now and know what to do next. 100% of the things you do now get done. 100% of the things you do next get done. You will never, ever be able to procrastinate, nor will you feel overwhelmed if you understand how to prioritize each and every day. And instead of trying to get more, instead of trying to expand beyond the limitation that exists in each day, which is the 24 hours of the day, then what we want to do is expand upon our own values of that day and feel as if I am blessed in an abundant world, that in the infinite time, I'm going to incrementally improve, which then allows me to expand my own self-image, notating that although I've expanded my self-image each and every day, that I'm still limiting it because I live within the construct of limitation, which is I am limited to 24 hours of activity. I'm limited to 24 hours of progress. So how can I not limit my own self-image if I'm limited by 24 hours of progress? I would therefore have to always be limiting my self-image. And so instead of looking and attaching my emotions to an outcome of a self-image that I cannot ascertain in one day, I utilize divine direction, divine progress. The detours that occur, I'm identifying as interference to what already exists in the infinite. So I'm looking not to attach my emotions to the outcome, but to elevate my awareness to what am I doing to interfere with my potential? What am I doing to interfere with my self-image? Not trying to go get a higher self-image, because that self-image is infinite in its nature. Of course, always I'm limiting it by the limited amount of time that I have.
Couldn't love this more. So there's that.
Got that going for you.
Yeah. I'm going to bring on our second guest who's ready to rock. And I'm super pumped, and we're going to get this party continued.
Oh, I'd like to be your first guest. That was cool. Thank you, Craig.
Absolutely.
It's been a long time. It used to just be me and you in this show.
Yes,
go back
it did.
150 episodes.
Yeah, probably 170. I'm super pumped for this.
Look at this handsome
How
guy.
are you?
How's it going, David? Good to see you, Craig.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm absolutely phenomenal. How are you?
Doing good. I love your energy already. I feel.
Yeah, me too.
Where are you?
Thanks
Where are you dialing in from?
I'm coming in from Toronto, and I think my energy is high because, David, I was watching your TED Talk last night, all about vibrations and frequencies, and I'm all frequency up, my friend.
Nice. Thank you. Well, elevate us.
Beauty.
I love it. Yeah, we're going to dive right in. Our community is very blessed to have you today. Do a deep dive if you weren't familiar. Obviously, you talk a lot about speaking, and you're such an amazing transformational speaker. I love it. I think just the ability to communicate effectively is important for everyone, even if you're not a professional speaker, so to speak. How can we begin to speak to be seen more as a leader?
There are three components that I teach my clients. So you have to be confident, you have to be clear, and you have to be credible. If you just start with those three components, that takes care of most of it. Confidence comes from just knowing what you're talking about. And David, I'm sure in your time in the industry, you've seen many people just step on stage and they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. If you just say the words out loud once before stepping on stage, you'll be shocked how much better you can say it when it really counts. That's the confidence piece. The clarity piece is how can you simplify words to the simplest denominator. I work with many Web3 founders and crypto founders, and these people are just jargon. And I have to say, listen, simplify, make it more concise, make it clear. Once you can do that, it's easier to communicate that. And then credibility. Are you just able to answer basic questions about your business, about what you do? Most people, they lose credibility before they even open their mouth. And Craig, I'm sure you've seen this, where you ask someone a question and before they can even answer, so my business is it's about, they've lost credibility right away. So if you can have those three things, confidence, clarity, and credibility, you're a good public speaker.
Confidence. What were you going to say, Dave?
I was going to say there's no truer word spoken, and it's so interesting when people look at confidence, credibility, and clarity. My biggest challenge is clarity because whether I'm writing books or speaking or being interviewed, my coaches, and I use coaches and mentors as I mentor and coach so many others as well, but they'll always say, dude, that's a Meltzerism. 0.001% of the people actually understand what the F you just said. You got to be able to speak and listen for. And I think it's really important. But the one thing that you said at the very beginning holds true. And it's the most frustrating thing I'm sure that you experience and Craig experiences. It's that we can't do the practice. And you said if you just say it one time before, you'd be amazed at how exponentially better you'll be at doing what you want to do. But it's so difficult because human nature is counter to practice. It's counter to consistent behavior. And all of these things You don't get more comfortable or confident in anything unless you practice anything. I don't care what it is. And it's so difficult when you have good intentions and you want the best for people, especially when they're paying you, right? They're paying you and they're not willing to do the practice. And,
Yeah.
I think of my friend Jim Mora, who's one of my mentors, went to my college and was a head football coach there. And obviously at the Colts for Marshall Falk, one of my business partners. He was the king. He was a military guy. He was the king of practice, man. He preached practice. He really said, I don't really even give a shit if you listen to what I'm teaching you to do, but you got to do something every single day. How important do you think that is of just repetition, counter to human nature?
Yeah. David, you know a thing or two about ego like myself, where I used to think I can just step on stage and I can just riff for an hour and people will love me. Every word coming out of my mouth is gold. I don't need to practice. I used to do these sessions in university where I would teach public speaking and I would feel like I'm the best. But I didn't realize until afterwards where I was doing it for the validation of feeling good about my public speaking ability and not so much about helping people with what I'm saying. And it wasn't until one student said, hey, you're a great public speaker, but I feel like you're special and I can't be like you. I said, what are you talking about? My whole talk was about how you can become a better public speaker. There was a big difference between me and them when I was presenting the material. When I went to my coach and I asked him, he said, how do you rehearse? What's your rehearsal process? I said, I just show up on the day. Like, oh, do you manage the energy in the room? If they're low energy, do you come in lower energy and then raise it? Do you know how to build trust with them? I said, no, I just show up. He said, Yasir, you need to respect your audience enough to rehearse. Respect your audience enough to rehearse. Do it 10 times, then show up on stage. And David, that advice alone changed the game for me.
This is unbelievable. Dave, I'm so glad that you asked it. And yes, what I noticed from my experience is that obviously the preparation is so important to respect the audience. But when the consciousness is not about ourselves and looking good, but how can we actually help this particular audience in the most productive way possible, you end up also being a channel. And sometimes the best divine download that you can say to really ignite the audience might come through 2 seconds before you say it. You combine the preparation with that consciousness, that typically creates magic. Would you agree?
And then also being in the present moment. So I'll give you a great example. I was speaking at a conference just now, and I had prepared this introduction for about a month and a half. I knew the first line I was going to talk about. I usually start by saying, I have a confession to make. That gets the audience's attention. And then I go into my story about, hey, I'm a public speaking coach, but I wasn't always confident. I go into that story. The night before, I'm meeting some of the people at the event, and they said, hey, Yasir, I've noticed you don't drink. I said, yeah, I don't drink. And I also noticed you didn't have coffee earlier in the day. How come you don't have coffee? I said, oh, it's because it dehydrates my throat. And everyone at the table looked confused. Okay, so what? Now I'm thinking, how do I explain it to them? So this is what I said. I'm not sure how to say this, but I make money with my mouth. And that's why but before I could explain what I meant by that, everyone at the table started laughing. And then I realized it sounded a bit suggestive. And one of the person next to me said, Yasir, you have to open with that. Open your keynote speech with that tomorrow. I said, there's no way in hell I'm going to open with that. Everyone on the table, no, is going to crush it. Believe me, it's going to crush it. So the next day, I'm nervous because I prepared this first line for so long, and now I've got this fresh thing on my mind. So I walk on stage, I look at the person dead in the eye who told me to do it, and I said, I'm not sure how to say this, but I make money with my mouth. And the entire crowd, Craig, just loses it right away. And the lesson I learned from that is sometimes if you're just connected and present with the audience in the moment, regardless of how much you rehearse, that is much better than a canned speech because you're in that moment with them. That moment can't happen anywhere else. So yes, rehearse, but also be present with the audience.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's bringing me back to, I was blessed to bring Craig down to South Carolina years and years ago for a big solar company, $1 billion solar company. And I think it was his real first corporate speech, or at least one of his first ones. And I watch him today and listen to him about understanding, channeling, and my mentors like Bob Proctor and Jack Canfield and Wayne Dyer, all who explained to me when I was Craig's age and starting off speaking about understanding, allow everything to come through you to understand what your audience is listening for. And I remember how much I wanted only to do keynote speeches, and I would fight, like they're like, no, we'd like to do a fireside chat with you, or we'd like you to do Q&A. You're one of the best hot seat coaches. We know you want to be a keynote speaker, but at that time I was already a great hot seat coach, a mentor, and you're so good at it, and I would fight it. But I now try to do it as much as possible, because it actually takes far less practice, because all you're really doing is being present and channeling, and you're given what they're listening for, which is a remarkable part of public speaking. And you'll find as you grow into what all three of us are blessed to be able to do for a living, that it's almost like a cheat code. If anybody even mentions, is there a possibility for Q&A or a fireside chat? It's almost a cheat code to being a public speaker, because you get all the difficult things over with, because they're allowing you to channel, and they're telling you, it's like the people at the table, they're telling you what you're listening for. You accidentally say things like, I've been making money with my mouth for the last 40 years.
That's right.
So good.
You do have to elaborate and simplify that afterwards. Just putting that out there.
Or clarify, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have such a just bad thing I can say right now, and I'm biting my tongue not to say it. But it's suggestive about what you'll do for $1.
This is great. Dave, that humor is right up your alley.
Yes,
Wow.
it is. 12-year-old humor is my humor. My son has outgrown my humor. He's 14. No more fart jokes, Craig. They're not funny.
Yes, here, this reminds me of something that you say, which I think is so beautiful and powerful, that it's not so much about what you say when you're on stage, but what people will remember when you leave. It's beautiful.
I learned that lesson the hard way. When I was early in my career, I wanted the validation of the audience so bad. I wanted them to come to me and say, wow, Yasir, you're so amazing, because I grew up as a very socially anxious kid. I didn't get a lot of validation, and this whole public speaking thing was a way for me to get that validation. And I once got invited to do a talk on overcoming your public speaking anxiety. And I had these 17 different methods to overcome your anxiety. I came, I delivered the speech. There was a whole line of people afterwards like, oh my God, Yasir, you're so amazing. And one of the guys who came to me said, hey, Yasir, that's exactly what I needed, because after you, I'm going to be going on stage and I'm really nervous. I said, sure, you have all the 17 methods now. Great, good luck. So I go get my coffee, I come back, I sit down, and I see him step on stage, and I can visibly see his notes shaking in his hand as he's walking towards the lectern. He walks towards the lectern, he changes his slides a little bit, he stutters on a word, and Craig, he can't recover. He puts the clicker down and he walks off the stage. Now, if you're sitting there with me in that room, you would have felt your stomach just churn. It's like seeing a car crash happen, right? So afterwards, I went to him in the parking lot and I said, what happened? I just met you just now. And he said, man, I got nervous. I didn't know what to do. I walked off stage. And I'm thinking, you were front seat at my talk. The 17 methods of how to overcome and manage your public speaking anxiety. What are you talking about? You were right there. I gave you everything. And he said 3 words that I will never forget. I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember. And that's when I realized, what's the point of me being a good public speaker if he couldn't remember it when he needed it most? That's when I realized the difference between being a good public speaker and a memorable public speaker. Because if you want to be valuable, you have to be memorable. It's your job and your duty to be memorable. That's why I focus so much on making sure they remember the message long after I'm off stage.
That was beautiful, huh, Dave?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to add to that. People will remember how they feel. So, and as a public speaker, one of the things I've learned to do is to start off with a story about remembering. And there's several different things that you could do, but I always will tell a story about how I pay $1,200 a month to remind myself what I'm doing up here. And I said, when I went to college, law school, business school, spent over $1 million on personal development with Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, and these guys all I ended up with is a whole bunch of banker boxes because I thought I was supposed to write down everything. And I have banker's boxes sitting in the storage unit costing me $1,200 a month, and I don't know how to access any of the information. And so what I teach people is to only write down what resonates with you, what makes you feel agreeable strongly or makes you disagree strongly. Both. A lot of people won't capture what they disagree with strongly, and they're equally important. It's God or the universe telling you, hey, this is going to be important for you someday in the infinite realm. And so I think you can actually guide an audience to remember a message or what resonates with you, because you don't know what's going to, I find it, I study physics, quantum physics and metaphysics, but the number one thing that people tell me, the most impactful thing I teach, is to say thank you when they go to bed and thank you when they wake up, right? I think I'm solving Einstein's riddles, and they literally are like, thank you so much. I call my mom every day and tell her I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, and I appreciate her and love her. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm like, that had nothing to do with my talk. It was like one little side note, but that's what resonated with what made them feel a certain way, and that's what they remember. So there's, Yasir, you're one of the best coaches for speaking in the world for that very reason. You get the emotional connection as well as the logical reasons.
And David, just to add to what you said, my coach, Craig Valentine, he had a perfect explanation of this. He said, what you say is not always what they hear.
Yes.
So you might step on stage thinking, these are the points that will land with the audience, but sometimes they come to you and they say, oh, that stuck out for me. Like, really? That part stuck out for you? And that's why you test the message on stage. A lot like stand-up comedians, they don't think the joke is funny, or they think it's funny. They go on stage and they find out it's not. You're testing material.
Yeah. And that's why I do so many interviews. I'm always testing materials with these digital shows as well. And Jay Leno did the same thing. He would do 150 corporate speeches to test out the monologue for the Tonight Show. And he already knew he had winners when he went on the Tonight Show, because he got paid, 150 to 200 grand to test out his jokes. It was a great situation for him. Bring us home, brother. Land the plane.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is a really special conversation. Yasir, I saw you say this, and this is a good place to end, is that you don't need confidence to take action, but you do need to take action to build confidence. I think that's a really cool paradigm shift, no pun intended, for anybody that wants to ascend to their next level in any arena.
Yeah, I'll leave you with one quote that's really helped me, and that is consistency over creativity. Consistency over creativity. Because when I'm starting off a new venture, I'm always thinking about the best way to do something. I want to become the best public speaker, but what's the best book I can read? What's the best strategy? What's the best coaching program? And then I don't do anything at all. So before I can get creative with my solutions, I first have to be consistent. How do you become consistent in becoming a good speaker? Turn on the camera and just talk to yourself. You don't have to have an audience. You don't have to have followers. Talk about things that you enjoy talking about. One of the things that I did for 2.5 years, David Craig, I used to wake up and I used to recap my previous day, and I would just talk about it on my phone. Yesterday I woke up, I had this for breakfast, blah, 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 blah. And the next day, my job is just to make it sound like it was the most interesting day in the world, even though I was waking up, having coffee, brushing teeth. And that's how I really started to develop this skill. So if you want to get better, focus on consistency over creativity, and then find creativity later on.
Yeah, he's a nugget dropper. But I think to add to another C, there's been a lot of C words flying around today. And none of them
expand on that too.
Yeah, none of them offensive, but one of them that's important in this realm is capture. Because of the technology today, we used to practice in the mirror. That's how old I am. I would practice cold calling in the mirror. I'd practice speaking in the mirror. But today there's so many mechanisms to capture and review and to utilize the conscious continuum. And so I want to encourage people to not only consistently do this, but we don't have to be creative. I'm a content capturer, and then I pay people to create content from what I've captured, and they're much more talented at making me look good than me making me look good. But I have to be able to be in the practice of capturing content. So I want to encourage people to do that as well. What a blessing it is to spend some time with you. Thank you, Craig, as well. Do we want to maybe ask where people could find everyone?
Yeah, real quick before we have our first one, thank you so much for joining us. This is special.
Thank you.
We're connected offline. What's the best way for our community to support you? Is there something that you're really excited about right now?
Speaklikeaceo.com. If you want to find my training programs, free resources, hire me as a speaker, that's where you got to go.
Amazing. And Uncle Dave, where are you going to be traveling? Where can people find you?
I'm in Vegas today, so we'll be at the studio at the Palazzo where I'm sitting in the hallways here already. And then we're off to Chicago, Aspire. So we got cool people, Itzler, Goggins, myself. Come and join us in Chicago. Of course, always have meetups, holding court, VIP dinners. Email me if you want a free book, david@dmeltzer.com. Let's get together, you guys. I'd love to see you. We'll be back also in Irvine at the end of next week and all over the world, as you know. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
This was beautiful. Thank you both. Love you guys. Have an amazing week.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.